Hey there. All right, guys. So we're going to talk about Mission Gold today because I'm kind of reintroducing a lot of my watercolors back to myself these days. And it's just kind of a nice reminder. And as I get new colors, I wanted to kind of just create a new book. So far, I've done in this series the Daniel Smith ones. With the exception of the Quinn Gold, which is coming for Christmas. So I have that one coming, and I can't wait to see what that one's actually like in this line. I've done my Schminke, which Schminke is absolutely my favorite watercolor. I love the way they travel and the way they work. They're just beautiful. It is a much more expensive line, I think. It's about the same price, I think, as Daniel Smith, though. A little harder to get depending on where you are. Sennelier is also amazing French watercolor, and their colors are just beautiful. As far as like comparisons between Sennelier, Schminke, and Mission Gold, I gotta tell you that there's so many similarities with these paints. Like if you just look at the range of Prussian between the three, you have like the Mission Gold Prussian is so rich and deep in color. The Sennelier, again, deep in color and rich, and the Schminke, beautiful. They do travel differently as far as water. Like this one, the Schminke, when you wet it, it just spreads really quickly. The Sennelier, it spreads a little less quickly, but again, beautiful, but it does have a little more of a backwash. And the Mission Gold is more permanent color. So when you really want to use, like maybe you're doing florals and you don't, or maybe you're a beginner and you don't want to like put a lot of money out on paints. The ones I'm going to do today is 24 Mission Gold pure pigments. And you're going to see how brilliant the colors actually are. They are, I just laid this out here so that we can do this and test them all out, but they're all right here. This comes in a set, and it was one of the first sets that I got when I started with watercolor. And I absolutely love it, and I still love it. I still love it for florals. I still love it for just about anything. If I'm going to use maybe like something like this, like, or a palette knife, and I'm going to, you know, kind of smear the paint on the page. These really do a great job in holding the beautiful color. So they're brilliant. Now, as far as lifting, there are other paints like Daniel Smith and some of the other ones that lift a little bit better, a little easier. Some of these can be really staining, so you definitely want to experiment, and whatever you can afford in paint, I suggest that you get it. You know, whatever you can afford. Maybe it's just like getting a starter set for several different times of year. Like maybe at Christmas time you're going to get a starter set of a maybe get the pure pigment one first, and then Daniel Smith maybe for your birthday, or you know, like, and just try them, because you need to have the experience. You need to try out the colors. You need to start experimenting with colors and start putting them together and just figuring out what really appeals to you. Some of you are going to love earth tones. Some of you are going to love to work with blues and cobalts and pinks and all these gorgeous different variations. Now, the ones you're looking at here are done with Daniel Smith, Sennelier, and some Mission Gold. So it really just depends. As you can see, you can get brilliant color from a lot of different companies, and they all have different price ranges. So I suggest whenever you can, invest in paint, try it out, get good paper. 100% cotton paper is the best, and then you can honestly say that you have been there and done that, and you've figured out what it is that you love to paint with and why you love to paint with those things, you know. So I'm gonna take a little quick pause here while I put some paint on this, and then we'll start smearing it out so that you can see how it looks, and I'm really excited to get started. Okay, we got some paint on our samples, so I'm gonna choose probably a very juicy brush because I want to try and get as much water onto this as possible. So I've been really loving this new brush by Escoda that I just recently got. We could try that one, or you know what another really juicy one is as well is the Da Vinci. This is a quill, and this like holds a lot of water too, which is really nice. Maybe this kind of fits better, so I don't know. I kind of want to play with both brushes, so we're gonna like go ahead and let's try these two. Definitely. Okay. This is actually, it's, you know, it's not like I haven't done this so many times, but it's so fun. I just love to try out the watercolors again and just familiarize myself with them. So this first one is, first of all, this is Mission Gold Mijello Pure Pigment, the set of 24. The first one is Lemon Yellow, and these little black lines here show you how transparent the color is as we wet it. So I'm actually going to re-wet this a little bit, and you see how nice and juicy they get. The thing with Mijello also that you'll notice, one of the benefits is that when you fill your palette, and this is a palette that comes with another set with these like smaller ones, when you fill your palette, they stay wet for quite some time. They don't lose that juiciness, and they're really easy to re-wet. I noticed with Danielle Smith particularly, there are some colors in my Danielle Smith set that take me a long time to re-wet. I have to spray them several minutes before, especially like the Cascade Green. It kind of just like cakes. And as you can see, the Mijellos, they never do that. Like here is the Lemon Yellow that has been sitting in this palette for quite a few months because I've been using other colors. And here it is. It's just, it's fine. I can re-wet it like just like that with the brush really easily, and they will really stay wet, like I said. I also noticed they don't really crack especially easily. So for the price point, you really cannot beat this Mission Gold. It's beautiful. So this lemon is just gorgeous. It's bright. It's got almost a fluorescent quality. It kind of has like a beautiful, it's kind of like a Hansen yellow. It's somewhere in between. See, if you look at the Hannah Yellow by Danielle Smith, it's very, very close to that. Hannah maybe has a little more fluorescence, but not really. I mean, look at how close they are. Another one that looks like it is the Sennelier, the 501, and to be honest with you, these lemons, I would just as soon as use Mission Gold. I am not addicted to the Schminke or the Sennelier Lemon Yellow in any special way. There are some other colors that I am really addicted to, and as we go through this, I'll tell you which ones those are. Permanent Yellow Light is the next one. That's W522. This one still wets very, very easily, and you can see it's a really nice, transparent, but yet bright, bold color. This would be great for flowers for sure. And I'm going to just add some water back in as like a backwash, and to like get a little transparency, but also to see what it looks like when we, you know, like create that little backwash. And also just so that our sample has some variations in the shades of color. So the next one is W523, and this is Permanent Yellow Deep. This is a gorgeous, like goldy, warm sunflower. It's really, really pretty. It's, I would say it's pretty transparent. If you could probably layer it and get a little less transparency on this because it's such a bold color, but wow. Look at the brilliance of this color. It is just beautiful. So pretty. This would be just great in florals. And this is why this set, if you're a floral person, ooh, you definitely can get some amazing florals. Next one is Autumn Orange, and that's W622. Now this is really pretty too. Now this one re-wets so quickly and it's so juicy. When I say juicy, it's mostly just the color is, the color and the paint just feels not dry. It feels so supple, like there's a lot of honey in it, or, you know, a lot of, like maybe there's glycerin that they've used in the watercolor, but it just re-wets so nicely that it just doesn't give you trouble. When the alternative would be something that would be like really dry and cakey and maybe have little flecks in it that weren't sediment, right? W604 is Red Orange, and this is a really pretty color. This is a bright, bold, almost like a fluorescent orange. I don't know, it's just bold and bright. That's all I can say. See how much brighter it is? The autumn orange is perfect for those fall foliage colors, but the red orange has a very special quality. And I would say this one would be more like a little more muddier if you were going to mix it in with some other colors, where the red orange would be very clear, you know. And you can say the red orange actually lifts really, really well. If you're noticing with the backwashes, these are really moving pretty well, and also they're creating some nice backwashes. They're removing, the color's easy to remove if I want to remove it. We might go back in and maybe take this other brush here. Let's just see what happens when we remove color. We can do it right next to the line. Yeah, we can. Look at that. Lifted right off. That's another good thing to do with your samples, is to see how the color removes. This is the Escoda brush. This is a Escoda Prado, the David Taylor set, number 12. I absolutely love the David Taylor set. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I have another set coming that I'm really excited about too, and I'll review it in some upcoming videos. I'll do some brush reviews for you guys so that you can see what kind of brushes I've been getting into, because I have a ton of brushes. I actually just organized them into this handy thing, and these are the ones that I use the most, or that just came in that I really have to try more. Like, I haven't used the Escoda 18 yet. I have not used this 24 yet. There's like some really, really incredible brushes here that I cannot wait to dig into. They're going to be so much fun this year. So anyway, let's go back here. Okay, so we're removing color, and that's working really well. Let's go to Permanent Red Deep W574. Now, there are some watercolor artists out there that just love to add red to their landscapes and things. And if I were going to choose a red, I would really, over any red that I have found, choose this red. I think is such a beautiful, clear red. It travels really well. This is a Pure Pigment Mission Gold Mijello. Again, from their Pure Pigment set. You can lift it. It does stain, but it's not really a staining red as much as you would think. It's got excellent coverage, if you noticed. You can actually build this color up and get almost complete coverage, but then again, you can make it very transparent. And I just love the color. Now I'll show you what I mean. If you look at some of the other colors that I have in reds by the other companies, this bright red by Sennelier, it's got a little more muddiness to it, like it's a little deeper. So when you mix it with blues, it gives you like this really muddy kind of purple. Now it's great if you want moody shades, but sometimes you just want a red that just packs a powerful punch. So if you had like a landscape or something and you wanted to do a powerful red as a shot of color, this is the clearer red. And also it's like such a good price, right? This is another red. This is by Daniel Smith, and you can see it's very, like, it's almost got a, it's like a sediment, kind of like a grain to it. And it's not nearly as clear or bright as the Mission Gold Red. And this is what I'm saying about a lot of these paints, and the reason why I like Mission Gold, as well as the others, right? I like them all for different reasons. But for application, if you needed something that was a really punchy red, then the 574 Permanent Red Deep by Mission Gold Mijello in the Pure Pigment set is amazing. Here's that bright red again. You can see the difference, even with the yellow. It's just a little more tomatoey. You know, that's how I describe it. It's not as clear. Here's the bright red mixed with the Winsor Newton Indigo. Makes some really beautiful shades, kind of a gray shade, which is really nice, but this one would make a even better shade. I would actually say we should do like a tester, a little tester, and see how that mixes with the indigo, because I think it'd be really, really cool. Alizarin Crimson is also a red a lot of people choose, but as you can tell, it doesn't have the brilliance that you would think when it dries. You really have to layer it up depending on who you get it by. And yeah, just that permanent red, it's hard to beat. It's really nice. It's really nice. Okay, let's go on. So number W512, Quinn Permanent Rose, is one of my favorite colors. You can see because it's a beautiful bright rose. Now, Daniel Smith makes a Quinn Rose that is really beautiful as well, but you're going to see a huge difference in the shades. This is their Quinn Rose, and what it looks like when you mix it with the Schminke Turquoise, Cobalt Turquoise. That's one of my favorites. This travels well, this one by Mission Gold. So if you like to see them travel when you add water to the downline, like a bead, you can see how nicely it travels. I'm gonna take off some water and see if we can get a nice little backwash there. Yeah, that's gonna be good. And there's really nice color. You can actually build this one up too. It's kind of, I would say, semi-transparent. It's transparent, but I would still kind of list it as a semi-transparent, because I could really build this color up and get some coverage on it if I wanted to, and I wanted to go really deep with it. But see how beautiful and pink it is, and it makes like a really pretty pastel pink shade. If you really water it down and take the water away, you would see, if you just kind of rub it into your paper, a beautiful pastel pink that it makes. If you add white to it, it would make a really pretty pastel color for those of you who like pastels. But completely different from the Quinn Rose from Daniel Smith. And Quinn Rose from Daniel Smith is really nice. It's just that this is so much more brilliant for florals. It's just my opinion. So Rose Madder is a very popular color. A lot of people like to use. I have very often gotten hung up on Rose Madder, and I like the quality of it. It's really pretty. It does make some really interesting paintings when you mix it. When you mix it with blue, though, remember it's a very different shade. So like it tends to, I think, grab a lot of purples, and I noticed that you can really, this particular shade can really get carried away with you. So really experiment. Always mix your shades before you actually do it on paper, like on a little sample card, so you can understand what you're going to get and see if it's going to pull warmth or added cool from whatever shade you're mixing with. I really like the Permanent Quinn Rose so much better. Now, I used to favor Rose Madder, but I just love the way Quinn Permanent Rose just reacts in the Mission Gold. I think it's just incredible. This one's just got a little more mood to it than the Quinn Permanent Rose. Quinn Permanent Magenta W519 is next. One of my favorite colors for florals, and I think you already know why. And look at how incredibly juicy that is. Let's get this cleaned out. There we go. I've already switched to the Escoda brush. I love this brush. It's so nice. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a pastel. I almost want to mix it with white to show you how cool it is. But you know, the thing is even if you mix it with white watercolor, you get like an opaqueness. So in essence, it's no longer, you know, the qualities of the watercolors that we love and depend on and trust and want to see. So you can see how it does have a lot of good coverage. When you lift the paint, look at that amazing light pinky kind of color you get. It's so pretty. But this one travels really, really well. So it's one that you have to learn to control. Look at that. So pretty. And I'm going to go back and see if I can get a little backwash in there. Okay, next is Quinn Violet. W623. Very, very colorful. It's got a lot of coverage actually. If you can see, the color is so deep and so vibrant that although there's a transparency that you can achieve with it, this is one of those colors that you could build up and really get good coverage with. It travels really well against the waterline. As you can see, I'm like literally able to push it around and it fills back in. So it really wants to travel and it just wants to fill that space. So if I dry my brush out and then I drag it and try and control the water, I get this beautiful light. Oh my goodness, it's so pretty. Light violet. And this is why it's so nice for florals, right? This is beautiful. But then look at the depth of color in here. The depth of color is just incredible, right? It's just a beautiful, beautiful color. That's Quinn Violet. One of my very favorite shades from this line. I'm going to need to change my water soon. And the last one for this section, until we move on to my favorites, which are the blues, is the Dioxazine Violet. Wait till you see this. For those of you who like to do those beautiful violets, look at this. So rich. You can get such a deep color. Pure pigment right out of the box. Now let's add some water so you can start to see the shades, because the shades are stunning. Look at how pretty that is. It likes to travel, so again, once you add that water, then you have to really dry your brush out. And let's see how it removes. That's a very staining color, so depending on the paper you're using, it's going to lift and it's not going to lift, right? You're not going to be able to probably take it entirely off, but you will be able to do some lifting with it. As you can see on here, I'm able to pull some of it off and get kind of a nice little lavender, like really, really pale lavender, going into some different deeper shades of lavender. But look at the coverage. You see the black lines completely gone. This is just such a beautiful, beautiful color. So that's Dioxazine Violet. Look at that. Just a beautiful color. I'll try and get my writing to stand out. I like covered it. There we go. And a little bit of backwash area. Yeah, that one just took over. Definitely took over the paper. Okay, let me take a little break and I'm going to change my water here. And so which one is your favorite so far? I mean, look at how Rose Madder like breaks apart. It's neat if you want a texture, but like Quinn Rose doesn't really do that. But look at this Permanent Red Deep too and how beautiful that dries. We're going to get to see these all dry in the next 20 minutes as we go through. Really pretty. I do need to try and preserve my writing though, so that I can see what the this is. I might have to go over it with a Sharpie after it dries, but just for my samples. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Probably my favorite thing to do is to do the blues. I just love working with blues, and they're so rich and beautiful in Mission Gold. So the first one is Cobalt Turquoise Hue, and this is something I've used in Sennelier, also in Daniel Smith, in so many of the lines. I love using this turquoise. It is so brilliant and beautiful, but Mission Gold has a really nice one, and I can say some of them dry out really fast, very quickly. I have one by Sennelier that literally the tube is drying so fast just from opening it, and it's a 15 ml tube, so I have to constantly try and use that first. This one has been, it's over a year, probably almost 2 years old since I first opened it, and look at it, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. It's amazing. So Mission Gold not only lasts really long, but it just has this beautiful juicy quality to it, you know? And look at how pretty this one is. You can do a lot with it. It's really nice. It's not only brilliant, it doesn't have a lot of smoke to it. Some of them sometimes do. This actually has a little bit of coverage. Yeah, it's just a beautiful color. You can mix it with other colors too to get that kind of, you know, that variation. If you mix it with like an indigo. Next is Cobalt Blue, one of people's favorite colors to work with. It actually exploded when I opened it, so I haven't had it back open in quite a while. This is W549 Cobalt Blue by Mission Gold. Such beautiful color. It's like a mainstay color. You should always have a Cobalt Blue in your palette. It's great to mix with so many things. Travels really well. Aren't the colors just stunning though? I mean, you can see why I recommend these for florals and also for beginners, because you can afford to get this set and you get so much paint. I mean, literally, I have not used all these up yet, and I do a lot of painting. Of course, I got the set that comes with this that has some of the convenience colors in it, which are these littler ones, but you get a ton of them. I think you get like 42 or something, or maybe even 50 of these little ones with things like Cerulean Blue and Peacock Blue and colors that you don't get in the pure pigment set. This cobalt is stunning. It's really nice. You know, there are some cobalt blues that I just really don't use ever. Like, for instance, if you look at this Cobalt Blue by Mission Gold and you look at the Daniel Smith Cobalt Blue, I don't happen to like the Daniel Smith Cobalt Blue. I don't like the color of it, and like it almost has a strange quality to it, maybe like an opaqueness, where this Cobalt Blue by Mission Gold is such a rich color that I would reach for this one before I would reach for the other one, unless it was just in my palette. But I almost tend to want to switch this out no matter what palette I'm in, and just fill everything with the Mission Gold Cobalt Blue, because it's just a beautiful color to work with, and it dries really rich and nice, where this one dries a little bit. It's got a little more separation that I tend to like. Yeah, and I just like the hue of it. I think it's just really pretty. I like rich, very rich colors. The next one is Ultramarine Light, W581. Ultramarine Light tends to have a little bit of a purpley shade, kind of like an undertone to it. It mixes really, really well with some of the cooler pinks and reds. It's really beautiful. It's great for ocean colors. Daniel Smith has a French Ultra that I actually do not like as much as this one. I really love this Pure Pigment Ultramarine Light. It's so easy to paint with, and I'm a fan of Daniel Smith, but some of the colors, I like some of her specialty colors like Soda Light Genuine and Moon Glow. What else do I like? Her Cascade Green is really nice. There's quite a few colors that I like by Daniel Smith, but a lot of people have told me that they can't get the brightness that they see in my paintings using Daniel Smith, and it really just depends on how you mix your paints and what you use. And if I were going to use an ultramarine light, it would be Mission Gold that I would choose over Sennelier and over because see, it's really just a bright, beautiful version of it. This one right here is the Ultramarine by Sennelier, so it's a lot different as far as depth of color and the qualities of it, although it's very, very nice. The Schminke Ultramarine is also really pretty, but again, it doesn't have the richness and the vividness. So if you wanted something that was entirely lighter, you know, and more like shady, maybe more moody, then those two would do it. But for the price, this Mission Gold is just a really, really great deal, and so, so pretty to work with. I can tell. I mean, I'm attracted to it. I think it's beautiful, and it's definitely bright. And this one here is the Ultramarine by Mission Gold, so you can kind of see how they go. You know, the French Ultra is the DS. The Daniel Smith one is right there. The Daniel Smith French Ultra would be the closest to the Mission Gold Ultra if you were going to compare the three. I just still love the qualities of the Mission Gold and the Ultra. Ultramarine Light, and that was W581. Next is Phthalo Cyan Blue. Let's re-wet it. W631. Oof, this is my next level color. Now, this is going to be the closest to the Sennelier 479, which is the Hilo, I think it's Hilo, yeah, Hilo Cerulean. This is really close to that. It's got the ability to go really rich and deep and have coverage, but then as you're seeing as I'm adding water and removing some of the color in this area, it travels well, but then you get this gorgeous, gorgeous shade of blue. It's so pretty. This would also be equal to my favorite blue by, let's see, there's a blue right now in my palette that I have been enjoying so much, and I want to say it's by Sennelier. Let me see which one it is. Yeah, I think it's the Cerulean Blue by Sennelier. Or Phthalo Green also has these qualities. So there's a Phthalo Blue that is really, really nice that I just ordered. I'm gonna have to swatch it when it gets here because I saw a sample of it, and I think I ended up with a sample of it. Yeah, this is it, Phthalo Blue. So this Phthalo Blue I have on order, and it should be coming in very, very soon. And it is the closest I've seen to this Phthalo Blue by Mission Gold. But I actually, if you look at the Phthalo Blue by Mission Gold, look how bright it's drying. Like, see how dusty this one dries? This one does not do that. Does not do that at all. So pretty. Yeah, Phthalo Turquoise is also a really, really nice color to get. Phthalo Turquoise is great to have in your palette, as well as that Cobalt Turquoise. So Phthalo Blue, that's a win. I think everybody should have that. That should be like, you should have a Cobalt, the Ultramarine, if you like the Ultramarine. Definitely a Phthalo Blue. And let's look at the Cerulean, because I use Cerulean for just about everything, and you can see why. Because it blends, and it's just got such a great, it's got a great way that it interacts with yellow that I love. This one has a nice loose kind of feel to it, so when you add water to it, it just wants to slide everywhere and give you so much bright color. Now see how bright the Cerulean is compared to the Phthalo Blue? When you want to add a little more richness to your sky, or a little more richness to your ocean, or even some different shadows, you could mix the Phthalo Blue over the Cerulean. The Cerulean has the ability to get really super bright in the blue shades, and also in the lighter versions of it. And that's why you should definitely have this in your palette. So when you ask me what kind of blues or what kind of colors do I like in my palette, I actually have extra blues that I use, and you can see why. So the Cobalt would be one that I would mix with some of my warmer colors. The Cerulean Blue I would just use for everything, because it's just, I mean, my God, look at that color. It's just stunning, right? The Phthalo Blue is such a handy color to have, because you can add some depth and warmth just by mixing it in with some of the other colors. And then you can also add some depth and the depth of color and variations if you want to do a sea or an ocean or sky. The Ultramarine Light is more of getting like those lavendery shades. Like I could mix this with the Magenta and get a beautiful shade. I could also mix it with the Permanent Rose and get another gorgeous shade. And you can mix it with the Red Deep and get like some really interesting gray shades. So like, you know, I would definitely recommend having more than one blue. Now another thing I also use that's not going to be in this set is Prussian. Prussian is such an interesting color to use. Depending on the company you get though, Prussian can be very smoky when it dries. I do recommend you figuring out what indigo you like and what Prussian you like, because they're really handy to have to add more of a blackness to some of the colors, and also to just kind of mellow out some brightness. I use them sometimes just all by themselves. The Sennelier Prussian 318 is a beautiful one, but I do find that the Mission Gold Prussian 544 is amazing, and the color is a little more rich, where the Prussian by Sennelier is a little lighter. The Schminke is my all-time favorite Prussian, which is 492, and you can see the depth of color, you know, the way it works. It doesn't get as light when I add the wash to it. It's really, really pretty. I just love the Schminke, but that's like the more expensive one. The Mission Prussian will come in this set. So if you get like the little, you know, the ones with the smaller paints, I think these are 5. There's 7 mLs. Oh, that's interesting. There's 7 instead of 5s. You get a bunch of these. You get all of these colors in this palette, which is a great starter kit. The palette's good. It's not as nice as the bulletproof palettes, but it's a great size, and I like the fact that you have lots of mixing areas on it. And these are really nice and deep, and they're angled so that you really don't lose the color. I think this was the palette I used most in the beginning, and now I use something different, but I'll do a whole palette review on another video, because this is already getting long. Okay, let's get through these. Cobalt Green Deep. This is as close to Cascade, but with a little more depth of color. So again, Mission Gold, you're going to find the brilliance that you're looking for and maybe not getting in a lot of the other watercolors. You're going to find the cost-effective. It's going to be more cost-effective because you can use a lot more of it. They give you more paint for the money, and there is a pure pigment set, which is amazing because it's not going to go really, really muddy on you. You're going to be able to use these just beautiful pure pigments. This is very much like a Cascade green. I love it. Viridian is a must-have in everybody's palette if you're going to have a green. I think this is a great green to have. Now you can make Viridian, but this is a pure pigment Viridian in Mission Gold, and I really love it for foliage. It's a great way also to get leaves to be their brightest. And you can use this one maybe first as the first layer, and then you can add other things to it, like maybe more yellow to get it more light. You can, you know, manufacture a yellow green with it because it's a very clear color. And I tend to use very clear, uncomplicated paint colors if I'm going to start mixing them with other colors. Like I wouldn't really mix the Cobalt Green Deep, even though it's a pure pigment. I wouldn't mix that trying to get a very clear, bright color, because I know that that's really not going to brighten up, you know. Now if I added some Viridian to that, it would be an interesting shade. I don't really have a sample to be able to do it, but well, I could take a little bit of this. I'll show you what Viridian does. So here's a little bit of the Cobalt Green Deep, right? So you can see how kind of smoky it is. It's very, very much like Cascade. And if I take a little bit of the Viridian, it travels so well. Let's go ahead and add a little water. Definitely wants to take over, right? And it's just a nice way to brighten up, get a nice light green. It's kind of like a soapy color green. A little bit more. So now I've got a little more dusty version of the, it's pretty, very, very pretty. See how it's like brighter, but it's still got like that kind of bluey tint to it that the Cascade has. And look at that, the Cascade, this, not Cascade, but Cobalt Green Deep that looks like the Cascade by Danielle Smith. It's actually got a sedimenty kind of breakup to it. You see it? Now that we're mixing it, it's really nice. Yeah, these are just beautiful. Bamboo Green, W584. Greens are more like convenient colors to me because you can make greens just with blue and yellow. You can make every single shade of green just depending on what you have to mix into it. But so greens are convenient colors. Mission Gold happens to have some beautiful greens. Beautiful greens. Danielle Smith has some beautiful greens too, but they tend to be more moody because there's a lot of sediment. They have granulating colors, and that's amazing, but granulating colors don't tend to be really bright. So you kind of have to choose. Now, if you mix in some of this with that, you can probably generate some pretty nice brights, even with granulation. And that's just a whole nother video altogether, right? Like mixing something like, you know, one of their high granulating colors with some Mission Gold bright. That would be pretty interesting, actually. So Bamboo Green. Definitely beautiful green. Much different, a lot warmer shade to the Viridian, which is a lot cooler shade for me. Okay, Green Gold. Green Gold's interesting. Green Gold is always like one of those colors that it's gold until it dries. And then like the edges kind of look green depending on how much water you add to it. This one re-wets decent. It's not the best re-wetter. A lot of the yellow, like the yellow golds and quinacridone golds and stuff, tend to do that. This is very much like a quinacridone gold, which, you know, is coming to an end. So it's kind of nice if you do love this warm color. The Green Gold by Mission Gold will definitely do the trick. You could mix a little yellow ochre into it, which I'm doing next. Yellow ochre tends to be the one that is the hardest to re-wet and the most opaque color in most paint lines. You can see it's a lot less juicy. I'd like to read up one day about what yellow ochre is made out of, because it'll probably help me understand why it gets so chalky. A lot of people use yellow ochre as their yellow in a lot of things, like landscapes. I don't tend to use it as my base yellow. I don't really love the moodiness that it adds to my paintings. But again, if I were going to do some earthy kind of looks, then this would be my go-to, right? And it does have a lot of really nice warmth. All right, lifted really nicely. I wonder if I have a Quinn gold sample somewhere here that we could look next to. I mean, just for the heck of it, the Schminke yellow gold is kind of like the yellow ochre. The Winsor Newton yellow ochre, a little dustier than this one, I would think. Yeah, a little bit more dusty, but still very smooth. This one tends to leave a water line, so you have to be really careful with this. If you don't like water lines, then this yellow ochre, as you can see, it leaves a water line really fast. So you have to work wet on wet with it, or just really watch your back there and make sure you're blending it really well. Burnt Sienna number 2 is next. W625, a gorgeous earth tone if you love to use burnt sienna. Yep, and you like to mix burnt sienna into things, which a lot of people do. This is a really, really nice one. Look at the richness. Oof, look at that richness. It's really pretty. Do a little backwash here. It's got nice coverage too, right out of the tube. I don't know how the pan paints would go. I pretty much only use tubes now. I have, like, I think a Winsor Newton palette and some Japanese watercolors that are pans, but I just love to use tubes because I do a lot of abstracts, and I like to mix my own colors. It's just harder to re-wet the pans. I tend not to even want to fill these up that much in the beginning. As you can tell, I used to fill them, and I really don't do that much anymore. I kind of put the minimum I can in there, unless I'm going to do a really big painting, and then I just, whatever I'm going to use, I just put, I can fill it up. But now I tend to like to try and keep the lids on the tubes as long as possible. Don't open them that much, but at the same time, don't overfill my palettes with colors that I don't use that often. This is red brown. This red brown is just, it's so pretty. It's got like this, almost like this shimmer to it. I don't know. It's really nice. This would be really fun to work with. Red brown would be a great one to add to yellow too, just to see what the shades were. W565 is the red brown. Look at that. Let's create backwash and see what it looks like. Look at how the yellow ochre is drying. It's really nice. It's got some really interesting texture. And the last one from the Pure Pigment set by Mission Gold is Van Dyke Brown, and it has dried and it is doing all kinds of funky things. So let's see what happened. It might just be because this one is pretty old. I've had this set, like I said, for quite a long time. So now, if you ever have problems with your set and you feel like the oil or the mixing agent has come to the front, then just take a palette and put a big blob of the paint on a palette and try and clear out what's in the immediate tube. It's usually glycerin. This has got a little bit too much glycerin that has the sediment just kind of, because it just doesn't get used. I just don't use Van Dyke Brown at all, and I think I've opened it a couple times, so it's like almost 2 years old and it's been opened and not used and feeling neglected. I just don't use this though, because it's got a very, I mean, this would make mud in most of my colors if I mix this together. But if you are an earth tone fan, then you're gonna love Van Dyke Brown, because it is a really, really nice earth tone to have, and it does a lot of really nice things. Mission Gold has a nice one. Okay, so let's take a quick look here. So this is the Pure Pigment set by Mission Gold. Really beautiful range of color. Lots of really nice transparency, a lot of movement. You can create backwashes very easily. The brilliance of color is incredible. The convenience colors are really, really well done. They're so beautiful. As you can tell, the color pigment is just even and really bright even when dry, which makes a big difference. Now, if you were to look at, for instance, Daniel Smith, you can see that Cascade Green compared to the Cobalt Deep, right? I'm getting this all over me already. Compared to the Cobalt Deep, they're very similar. They really are. They have some qualities that are really similar, but the Cobalt Green Deep is much more brilliant than the Daniel Smith Cascade Green. So see how it's got sediment, and it's got some interesting things that happen to it when it gets washed out in the backwash, but at the same time, this is way more brilliant if you're looking to use it for florals and you want that really bright, you know, that bright, the brightness. This is the Daniel Smith set that they look. So the Nickel Azo would be the closest to the green gold. And you can see again, this is just really bright, very even color, where the Nickel Azo has a lot more texture to it, and it's got a lot more sediment in it. The new Gamboge is a beautiful bright, like kind of an orangey yellow, and that would be the closest to the Permanent Yellow Deep. But again, the Permanent Yellow Deep, I find, is equal in brightness to the Daniel Smith. The difference is the price. The price is a lot less expensive in the Mission Gold. The Permanent Red Deep, just to recap, is the nicest red that I literally have, because like the Pyro Scarlet and the Alizarin Crimson, they just don't do it for me. They get like this one is very much like tomato, and this one is just, I don't know, it's just somewhere in between the two, and it just doesn't, I don't love it. Even the Quinn Magenta by Daniel Smith, it just fades. It doesn't look as brilliant. If I were going to use these, you know, way more brilliant, right, for florals. So again, if you're looking for really bright florals, even Permanent Carmine is not nearly as bright as these beautiful bright reds and bright roses, you know. So you can see how it just kind of fades, right? If you look at the Manganese Violet by Schminke, which is just a beautiful, beautiful color, it doesn't have the depth of color or the brightness that the other ones. It almost looks very smoky instead of clear. Another thing to compare is the Cobalt Turquoise by Schminke, which I absolutely love. It's really pretty. It does have a texture. It is really done nicely. But, I mean, you have a very bright version in Cobalt Turquoise, and they're very similar, you know. I would say, though, that this one is brighter, like in the lighter shades, where this one doesn't lighten as well and as easily. It was a little tougher to lighten. So if you wanted more coverage in a cobalt, then that would be your thing. If you wanted a transparent cobalt that's bright, then the Schminke would actually be the one to choose. Phthalo Turquoise is a convenient color by Schminke that I absolutely can't live without. I love this color. The Phthalo Cerulean by Schminke is also one of my favorites. If you compare it to the Cerulean Blue here, though, they are so similar. They just act a little differently. The Phthalo Cyan Blue is also a very similar shade, just a little more depth of color. But you can see this is just a great range. They come in these really large tubes, 15 mLs, and the price point is amazing. They're really easy to get in the US. I'm not really sure if they're as easy to get in Canada because I'm here in Canada, and what I did to get the Mission Gold is I went on the Amazon.com site and I ordered from Amazon.com and got them sent to Canada, and it was actually less expensive than going on the Amazon.ca site for Canada and just ordering them directly to Canada. And I don't know why, so I just ordered them in US dollars and they turned out to be less expensive, just a little bit. So I don't know. It just depends on where you are. So just look into it. There's a lot of places that sell them, and they are just beautiful. So I hope you liked this. I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun just going through the colors again. I'll have to do this palette again soon because there's a lot of really beautiful convenient colors like Bright Opera Rose, and Hooker's Green, Sap Green. There's some really, really nice colors in this particular one, but for the most part, I mean, we have 24 of the colors here, and that's all you really need other than Prussian, right? Prussian and perhaps an indigo, but indigo doesn't really get used in the brights for florals. If I were going to choose florals, I mean, the easiest thing is just to use this set, you know, and then you have everything you need and you'd be a happy camper. All right, guys, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. Please definitely leave me a comment below and let me know what colors are your favorites and which paint you would like to see me sample next, and if there's any comparisons or special things that you want me to do on this channel with regards to watercolor. Have a great one and happy painting.